Hello fellow Jeti users, this video is about the Digitech 2+2 extender, which is a marvellous little device which has dug me out of a hole and done it nice and cheaply. It's available direct from Digitech in the Netherlands or from at least two of the UK shops, Nexus and eSoaring Gadgets. I bought mine from Bernie at eSoaring Gadgets. It arrived the next day, cost me £27 plus postage. What does it do? Well, it's a tiny little box, as you can see from the size of my finger, and the servo plugs. What you get is a bag with a label, the box, and one lead to plug into an expander port that you can set to X bus on your receiver. What else can you do? Well, you plug servos or X bus devices into the four sockets on the end here. Two sockets are dedicated servo only. The other two sockets, the +2, you can change from X bus to servo. So you can run a total of 4 servos out of it, as I'm doing. Or you could have 3 servos and an X bus socket, or 2 servos and 2 X bus sockets. And in those X bus sockets you can plug in X bus telemetry sensors. I'm not sure, and I doubt that you could plug in the older sensors which are not X bus. Digitech is also at pains to point out that if you're running servos off it, you must not use the power cable here to bring in power, or I should say the X bus cable to bring in the power for the servos, because the sockets here on the receiver that are expander ports were never designed to take that sort of current. So there's yet another little socket there for you to plug in a battery to power the servos directly. As I'm using 2 separate batteries here, but you don't need to. You could use one battery with Y lead between your receiver and here to provide power, as long as there is a direct connection from a battery into there to run any servos. Okay. What can you do with it? Now let's have a look at its programming. Pop into the menu, into Device Explorer. First thing you do, go into your receiver, configuration, because this is an assist, into your alternative pin config, find your expander port and set it to X bus. Remember, you've got quite a lot of choices of things there. It's not Jeti sensor, it's X bus. Okay to that. Next, hooray, this little device shows up in Device Explorer because it's a proper X bus compatible device, or it's a proper X bus device. So you're not restricted to using Jeti box as you are with a lot of add-on devices. My personal opinion, I can't stand Jeti box. It's not nice and friendly to use. Now, the snag is, this little device does not come with instructions. I looked on Digitech's website for instructions, couldn't find them. I emailed them, they sent me a PDF of the instructions, but sadly they're wildly out of date because they say you have to use Jeti box. You cannot use, it doesn't mention Device Explorer. It also states that the device is fixed as 2 servos and 2 X bus sockets. It doesn't say that you can change the +2 to being servos, and it doesn't tell you what the little blinking LED or status light does. It doesn't tell you what the device ID number is doing. It doesn't tell you how to set the fail safes, or etc, etc. Anyway, never mind, we can work things out. So you go into here, general settings. I don't know what this device ID is. You can change it from device 0 to device 1, whatever. I don't know what that does, and the instructions don't tell you what it does. System status is simply current runtime and frames and cyclic redundancy check errors. Port config, this is the one that's interesting. Right. We've got 4 ports, port 1 and port 2. Although there's a drop-down box saying it's servo, you can't get into it to change it. It is going to be a servo. And then you set the channel for that port. And I've, because of course the transmitter's sending all 16 channels, the receiver's getting all 16 channels. When it says it's a 10-channel receiver, that just means it has 10 servo sockets on it. Doesn't mean it's actually limited to 10 channels. So channels 11 and 12 I'm using for the assist gain and on-off switch, which means that channels 13, 14, 15, 16 I can program up in the transmitter, assign them as servos as you normally would, and then lo and behold they turn up in X bus and they turn up here, and it's just like assigning a servo channel. Just choose which channel you want out at that socket and on you go. Same for port 2. In port 3 and port 4 you can swap between being a servo or X bus. So if you want to plug in an X bus telemetry sensor, as I said, I therefore doubt that the older non-X bus sensors would work. You can do that, plug it in. I've chosen a servo, so same down here. We've got failsafe can be hold, which is what I'm choosing to do with this, thankfully, because if you choose position and then come along to set and press set, when I've tested it, it seems to set failsafe position only for ports 1 and 2, the two absolutely dedicated servo ports. Port 3 and port 4 don't seem to go to the failsafe position. Now you might think, aha, just set failsafes in the main receiver, surely. But that doesn't seem to work because I'm presuming the assist thinks it's only got 10 servo sockets. So even though you can go into channels 13, 14, 15, 16, they've got a little asterisk against them. You can change them from nothing to failsafe and press the set all failsafe positions now, but it doesn't seem to work. It doesn't seem to send the channels above its 10 out on X bus as failsafes. So hence failsafes in here. At least you can do it for 2 of them, but it doesn't seem you can do it for all 4 of them. Thankfully I'm after hold. Save all the settings. I don't know how necessary that is, but it's there, so I'll click it. And there you go. For £27, it's managed to dig me out of a hole that was starting to look rather expensive to solve. So there we are, just to prove it. There's all 4 servos. They're set up on a sequencer. So what will happen, and just to prove that I've got channels 13 to 16 working here, off we go.
Gun turret off.
Lovely. 4 extra channels out of the receiver for £27. Just what you want. Don't go away yet. I've got a little update for you now, which I've added onto the original video. Because obviously Digitech saw my video and they got in touch with some excellent news. First of all, they recognize that the instructions are well out of date, and so they will rewrite them to the modern software at some point. Secondly, if we go in here, remember I said general settings. I don't know what device ID is for. We can change it to device 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. I left it at device 0. Apparently, this is because you can actually daisy chain these extenders one after the other, presumably using one of the ext ports, so you get 3 servos out of it, use the ext port to daisy chain to yet another extender, and you would just change the device ID as you go along. So you'd start, say, at device 0, next one would be device 1, next device 2, and so on, and that allows you to identify them in the settings. But the really good one is they have sent me a software update to trial, and what it does is makes the failsafe work for all 4 ports. Remember I said it only seemed to work for ports 1 and 2, which were the dedicated servo ports. And now, if we go into it, change it from, it was hold, you change it to position, put your servos or controls in the position you want them to be in, press the set button, and then do not forget to come down and do save all settings. Otherwise if you don't press save all settings, it appears to work, but when you switch off and back on again, it hasn't saved it. So Unlike some other Jeti menus where as soon as you do something that's live, that's it, do press the Save All settings. And thus, let's prove that it works. So here we go. Here's the 4 servos. They're all set to the throttle stick, all moving nicely, and they've been set to fail-safe back here at idle. So let's open up the throttle a bit and come out here. We'll disable the transmission and watch it go to fail-safe on all 4 of them. This, by the way, is ports 1 and 2, the dedicated servo ports, which were working in fail-safe. This is ports 3 and 4, which were not working in fail-safe, but with this latest software update, they do. There you go.
Signal lost. Signal lost.
Bring transmission back on.
Signal lost.
That's it. Now, Digitech just sent me that software update to trial. Let them know that it was working for me, so it's not just working in their little software factory. So obviously I've been able to do that. So yep, customers managed to get it working successfully. So I guess at some point they will release that software update for you to do yourself and put it on the new items. It was easy enough to do. There's a little bit of updater software plus the file, which would be available on Digitech's website. And all you need to put it into your extender is, of course, a PC and the Jeti USB dongle that you use for updating your receivers, telemetry sensors and stuff. Okie doke, so a useful update to a very, very useful device.